Welcome, everybody, to the Retail Corner podcast in one more episode. Today, we're live from Mexico City, ironically, but we're going international, making it fun, like always. And we're very happy and excited to have our guest. His name is Jeremy Altman. He's the Vice President of Strategic Partnership at the PaySafe Group. Jeremy has 15 years of experience in payments, in IT and entertainment companies. Prior to PaySafe, Jeremy served as the Chief Transformation Officer at Udny Trust and also as the VP of Sales at SlimPay. Jeremy holds an MSc in Management from Emelon Business School. How are you doing, Jeremy? Thank you so much for being with us.
Well, good here. Thanks, Carlos. Thanks for hosting us and PaySafe. I'm very happy to be here today.
It's our pleasure. Thank you so much for sharing some of your time with us. So let's get the conversation started. And of course, the hot topic, new normal, but I want to really focus it on e-commerce, right? Where do you see the long term of e-commerce? Due to the pandemic, consumers have been driven, obviously, to have to go through e-commerce like never before. A lot of people were afraid, especially I think older generations, right? They were very constrained about going, but everybody kind of shifted now into that. And as brick and mortar and locations are starting to reopen, right? What do you see everything happening? Do you think people are going to continue engaging e-commerce, or are they going to start shifting back into the brick and mortar?
Okay, good question. Thanks, Carlos. So I guess consumers will always continue to shop online, and it's accelerating right now with this pandemic. But no one is really picturing consumers deserting the streets, or this will just pick up again, right? There will be some changes along the way, but that's just the way it is. So clearly, COVID-19 and this pandemic, it has had dramatic impact on consumers' behavior, right? You have the physical restrictions like social distancing, the changing attitudes as well. And this is changing how, when, and where people are spending money. But even if these changes are huge, the impacts we are seeing are not new at all. What we are seeing is an acceleration of trends that were there before. Like e-commerce was not created in 2020. The most visible one among these trends. So COVID-19 has forced most people to shop online in the short term, and the share of e-commerce is simply increasing. But let's remember that still today, most transactions are happening in person, and still a majority, right, of what we see. So e-commerce is booming. There is no way it's going back to less e-commerce, but brick and mortar transactions are here to stay in the long run. And essentially, this is what makes us a human society.
No, absolutely. I agree with you. And talking about that, I know PaySafe conducted a really nice survey, right, across the globe, and you guys really studied where the trends were going and how people were engaging. And there were primarily 4 impacts that you guys saw on e-commerce, right? Can you talk a little bit about that to us?
Yeah, absolutely. So at PaySafe, we often survey consumers to just, take a pulse of what's going on the market and what's a priority in this country. So we called that piece of research Lost in Transaction. And we essentially identified 4 trends for the latest survey that we conducted a couple of months ago. So I can touch on them quickly. The first one is the shift to online, we just discussed, and the diversification of the checkout. The second one is around the merger of the physical and digital worlds. The third is the growth of contactless NFC payments and also more frictionless payments. And the last one is around subscription payments. So I can touch briefly on all of them. To online, Carlos, what we observed that after 1 month of lockdown, a couple of months ago now, 18% of consumers were shopping online for the first time.
Wow.
And is not just short term. So it's 18%. Then we had 38% of consumers saying that they would be shopping online more often in the future after the pandemic. And when we ask them why, 65% are saying convenience. It's more convenient to shop online. It's not a surprise, right? What surprised me is that 20% or 18% of consumers were shopping for the first time online. So that's a big boost. And the way people are paying is also changing. 56%, I have that in my research as well. 56% are saying they are making an online payment using a payment method that they were not familiar with before. So that's a pretty big change as well.
Yeah.
The way you handle the money, the way you pay, it's not just the Visa or the MasterCard. Now people are seeking other options. So for example, we have almost a third of consumers that were using a digital wallet to transfer money to a friend or family. We had 43% saying that they have been reducing the handling of cash because of health concerns. So shift to online and also diversification of payment methods. So that's trend number one. Let's touch maybe on the three others. So merging the physical and digital worlds. So we are seeing examples of these physical and digital mergers through the checkouts. You see the app ordering in pubs and restaurants. And this will just accelerate with the advent of virtual reality and augmented reality. Can give you my experience, Carlos. This summer, I was in Toronto with my family. We were in a restaurant, and I sort of receive a menu, order from it, and pay after my experience. So a real in-store experience. This was not my experience. I entered the restaurant. There was a QR code on the table. I had to flash it, take a picture of the code, then on my phone, on landing page, to just order from my phone. I had to check out from my phone at the tip before seeing the waiter, essentially. And then we had all the meals, the starters and main course coming to the table. That was it. That was my experience of omni-channel. And this is going to stay for the long run in many experiences, use cases. And you have to just realize that for a business that only relies on physical presence, COVID-19 has been very, very serious. And the impact runs deeper than just having a consumer migrate from offline or in-person to online. It's really designing the entire customer experience. So omni-channel, start online, close your transaction offline, start in a store, finish it on the phone. This is all happening these days. And you see experiences where consumers are getting used to that. It used to be only some people, right? A fraction of the population, like the busy worker in New York ordering everything, or the mom having everything delivered at home, or the husband, whatever. But now it's like anyone can just do it because it's everywhere.
Yeah, it's becoming a standard practice. But I think to your point, something that you brought up that's very interesting. A lot of people saw this as fear, right? And of course, stress and everything as they were adapting to it. But as we're adapting completely as a society and from a business standpoint, it's becoming very cost effective, right? I mean, just the experience you talked to me about the restaurant, no more menus, no more, turnover in materials and all that stuff. So if you look at it in the long run, it's actually going to put us in a place where the expectation is going to be one, that the consumer is actually going to be okay with less expenses for the business in order to get serviced.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So second trend, we just touched on it. Third trend, the growth of contactless and what we call frictionless payments. It's not a new technology at all, right? It just gained tons of popularity everywhere in the world. And it almost became a barrier gesture during the pandemic. I'm tapping with my card and that's good. So what's new about contactless is just the mass adoption stage that we are right now. During the pandemic, people have really changed the way they spend in store. But well, I'm happy that businesses have positively responded to that, but it took really 15 years and that global from the first successful pilots in Europe, it was in France and in UK, and just being expanding all over the world. So it took some time, but now contactless is mainstream, and we almost see that everywhere. Even a country like Germany, where credit card and debit cards are not popular, and cash was still very used and king, as we say. Contactless has been growing steadily, and cash obviously has dropped. So it's a big change in the way people are consuming. In Canada, the limit to pay or tap with a card was increased to $250. That's big, right? For most of the transactions are below 200. So having that $250 limit in Canada has really boosted some businesses. And back to the research, maybe a number or two. We have 56% of consumers saying that they are more comfortable using contactless cards than a year ago. 53 saying that they are more comfortable with the concept of a contactless society. And the third number is 65% of consumers now believing that contactless payments are more convenient than cash. So that's a big shift in the consumer's mind, and this acceleration is never going to reverse. Once you've experienced the luxury of tapping your card, you don't want to go back to chip and pin, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. The luxury and the reliability, right? Because I think that's what took so long, that people were so concerned about how reliable this was going to be, and now it's like magic to a lot of people, So the increases that you're talking about are phenomenal.
Yeah, and when you take that contactless mindset to the next level, this is where we discuss invisible payments, frictionless experiences. So think about the Amazon Go experience. If you want me to simplify that, you go to an Amazon Go store, there is no physical checkout. And this might be the long-term future for retail. And this pandemic has also helped a few players and early adopters to pilot, try new things. Think about the transport providers, entertainment venues. They are just turning to technology to remain competitive and get the footfall into their areas. So that's interesting. And the last point on that frictionless is the concept of running a tab, right? You could have your credentials, your card payment credentials stored in your favorite places, and you can just run a tab. I always go to the same bakery. I always go to the same shop. Let's have my card details there stored, not exactly there. I mean, with their payment provider, with compliant, with PCI DSS and so on, but and just walk in the store, exit, and that's super comfortable.
Yeah, no, absolutely, absolutely. And talking about all those things, and so many changes coming around the corner as we, obviously now we've adapted, I think, as a society, and now it's how do we push the envelope, right, to make it better and better and better. Where do you see the transformation of the checkout experience from an e-commerce perspective? Like, what do you think is going to be the big next change from a checkout experience?
Okay, so I can touch on that. Maybe closing with the fourth trend is going to answer partially that question as well, because at the checkout, usually you pay once, but a big trend that has been accelerating in light of this pandemic is what we call subscription payments, and that's one of my favorite theme. So there is always a recurring payment behind a subscription, and this segment has just increased a lot in light of COVID-19. So Netflix, Disney Plus, they've seen new subscribers like never, and many sub-segments within subscriptions are used by everyone. Think utilities, think your telecoms, personal finance, healthcare, e-com, boxes of cosmetics and or food and digital content. So this is a big trend, and what we call subscription economy is also another area of growth when consumers are really turning to a digital checkout. So I want maybe you, Carlos, and the audience to be really realizing how much of subscriptions we are all using. The survey we had, it shows that 53% of consumers already agree that subscriptions are more convenient to pay for goods, and they already use these goods usually. And 44% say that subscription services are better value for money. So that's also a shift in the mindset, like, oh, if I have a plan, if I have a subscription for a category, must be for my wallet. So that's interesting. I don't know how many you have, Carlos, but 50% of international consumers today say that they have at least 2 subscription payments leaving their bank account every month. And this is just going to increase during 2021.
Wow. No, I completely agree with you. Yeah, I think all my utilities already have, in subscription mode. I have a couple of other services, but yeah, it's so convenient, and it's always the same thing, right? And I think to your point, that's what people love, in the sense of I'm getting more for my money, because you're so used to, whenever you used to get a bill and it wasn't like automated, then it would always shift. It would always vary, right? And sometimes it was more or less. And this way, it's like a standard amount that you already know and you're comfortable, and it allows you, I think, to run your personal finances a lot easier.
I agree. So back to your theme of transformation of the checkout. Just close on one more philosophical approach, right? When you think about the consumer engagement pyramid of payments, how do consumers engage with a merchant? There are really four fundamental needs that every payment and every payment method has to satisfy. It's about trust and security. I will only shop there, and this way is if I know that I'm safe. It has to be reliable. It has to work, anytime, at night, in the air, underground. It has to be easy, easy to use for me, for my grandparents, and it has to be fast, because I don't want to create a line after me and I'm busy. So if you're satisfying that, trust, reliability, ease of use, speed, and maybe a fifth one, which will be cool, like metal card and something fancy because you get some more loyalty, whatever, you're just scoring more with consumers. And this is how the checkout experience is transforming as well these days.
Wow, no, I love it. That's so interesting. And you talked about digital wallet, right? You touched on that briefly. I would like to maybe go a little bit deeper into that to get our listeners better educated in relationship to what is the difference between a digital wallet and the typical usage of, your wallet and your credit cards in there.
Okay, so yeah, a digital wallet, e-wallet, different ways to call that. It's a nice product, because for a consumer, you open an account basically, and you will load money to that account. By loading money to that account, you have access to many merchants and services. Either it's only electronic money, e-money, or it's and associated to that, you have a prepaid card. So for example, at PaySafe, we own and operate two big brands in that digital wallets world, called Skrill and NetTeller. So when you open an account with these two, you have access to tons of merchants, but you shop in a different way, because you have the security as a consumer. If there is any problem with the merchant, you can go to the consumer service department and say, oh, I had an issue with that merchant for whatever reason, and you have the security that your interests are protected. That's one. Also, when you shop online, you don't want to have always your card details disclosed to a merchant. Sometimes you don't feel safe. Maybe you don't know the brand. Maybe it's a new merchant, whatever the case is. If you click on, I'd like to check out with my wallet, could be Skrill, could be NetTeller, and you have a few others in the industry, Paytm in India, WeChat, PayPal, of course. And when you check out with a wallet, what you experience is that you're not disclosing any personal information. So that's another reason for the adoption of the wallets. So I would say security, you feel safe using that. It's convenient because you don't have to re-enter your credentials. It's already stored because you just have a login or password to add. And if you're using your phone, it's embedded in it. And the convenience also of having a card associated to your account, so you can tap in the real world with a Visa or MasterCard co-branded prepaid card. We have that for Skrill and NetTeller, and it's just very nice. So it's very similar to an online account. It's not a bank account really. It's a prepaid where you can store money, and it's safe there, and you can reuse it. So it's good if you're underbanked. It's good if you're not qualified to have a bank account. It's interesting if you're well, I guess a millennial or too young to have a credit card yet. So, or if you're traveling, it's very convenient too.
Yeah, no, I was about to ask you, when you use it for traveling and things like that, do you get additional fees for the travel, the conversion of the coin and all that, or is it
It depends.
standard?
It depends on which card or which account you go with, but some of them would say yes, you have FX fees that will apply. Some of them are waiving them. During the pandemic, we had a nice initiative, especially targeted at Italy, which was really hit at the beginning of the pandemic, and we waived all the fees to transfer from to Italy, transfer money from to Italy. So. I guess it depends. Some players will apply some. In the longer term, it should be as simple as a local payment, doing an international transfer or international transaction. And when you think about it, all these cryptocurrencies projects that you see popping up everywhere, it's all based on that fundamental idea of I can move money anywhere in the world. It's one currency. It's not really trading. It should be flat everywhere. And maybe this is where the future is.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And talking about all that, you mentioned obviously security, right? You mentioned that many times. Obviously, if we're talking about people's money, everybody wants to feel safe anytime they're making that transaction. And so many retailers are popping up from a digital standpoint, right?
Yep.
From all over the globe that you never know, hey, is this going to be a good retailer? Are they going to give me my money back if I don't like the merchandise? So forth and so on. So in your point of view, what are the shifts to e-commerce that will be related to security and fraud challenges, especially as we go into the subscription modes, as we go into all these areas where we're going to put our information out there more and more into the internet, right? What do you think are going to be those challenges?
So the good news is e-commerce is not new. It's not a new concept. We've been doing e-com transactions for 20 plus years now. So we've seen many patterns, many fraud patterns. Of course, if you're the bad guy, the fraudster, you always have, you're always a step.
You're always innovative, right?
Yeah. So, but it does push the industry, the good guys, to come up with nice and protective solutions. So what's new with e-commerce is the pace of acceleration. That's very important. If you listen to Microsoft's CEO, he said a couple of months ago, we saw a digital acceleration worth of 2 years in 2 months. This is what he
wow.
I guess in May or around that time. When I'm speaking with some large retailers here in North America, they are telling me I'm getting ready for new projects that I only had in my roadmap for 2025. So concepts, ideas that as a retailer you only had, for the next 3 years in your roadmap, they are just making that happen today. So what's changing with risk and fraud is that as you have more transactions, more e-commerce volumes, you have more fraud and more risk, right? Especially that are new to e-commerce. The good news is that we have amazing tools. Most of the risk and fraud engines today have machine learning and AI embedded to better detect and prevent risk. And it's all also related to what we call behavioral analysis. I can give you an example. If I shop online today on Best Buy and I want to buy for one of my kids an iPad for them. If I go and I'm a bad guy, okay, now I'm a bad guy, I go straight on Best Buy and I check out with the most expensive iPad. I'm not looking at the color. I'm not looking at how many gigabytes it's embedded. I'm not looking at the specs. I'm not comparing with another device. Straight to processing a transaction. That's a big alert for any fraud solution. Usually, the good guy, back to my example, I would go and shop and compare. Why do you need this one? Do you need the latest iPad Air? Or do you need the Pro? Why? So people spend time shopping online and browsing between all the models, the devices. If you go straight, that's a big risk. You're flagged. If I go and then check out and I copy and paste my my address or my name, that's rare. Pre-filled is okay, but if I just copy and paste, boom, 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 that's a risk pattern as well. If I last name myself and I make 5 times in a row a mistake, I'm exaggerating here, but it's not normal. Like it seems that it's not you behind the laptop. So all of these examples of behavioral checks are really becoming mainstream today, and payment providers have that embedded as part of their, you know, on the go monitoring.
Nice, nice. And I think you brought up a great point, AI, right? The utilization of AI. And I think over time, I'm assuming as AI continues to evolve and evolve and evolve, it's going to be able to recognize the shopping patterns for you specifically, right? So it will recognize, regardless of the retailer you go to, all of the sudden, if your shopping patterns change very drastically, so it'll be a lot easier to detect those fraud
Exactly,
scenarios.
and through AI and just a normal monitoring of transactions, it's like it's not happening. If I go on Amazon and every day I buy a book, and tomorrow my account gets hacked and the one who is entering my Amazon account buys a laptop, that's not my pattern. So maybe they will have a check, and very simple processes have prevented so many fraud attempts. Like if there is a new address entered in my account, you can get a text, you can get notified. So people are getting more and more used to how to protect their sensitive informations, I guess. And don't forget that shopping online is still much more secure than shopping via telephone or even sending your information via email. I'm always, when you book a hotel and they send you a nice email, please, can you your card information, and I'm going to secure the first night for you. I'm not going to give my personal sensitive payments data via email. You could call me and I don't like it, or you can direct me to an automated system online via the phone or via my computer. I will be, I will feel more comfortable.
So Jeremy, that's really interesting. Everything you're talking about with digital wallet, you know, PayPal, Google Wallet, so many different providers out there in the market. But I know there's something that's out there that not a lot of people know about, right? And it's called Ecash. And I wanted you to expand on Ecash so you can tell us a little bit more about what that is and the benefits of it.
Sure, thanks, Carlos. So there is a way nowadays to pay online with cash. It sounds like counterintuitive to pay online with physical cash, but we have a way at PaySafe, and there are some local alternatives in a couple of countries. So basically, the problem around cash online is that when you think about it, like you have so many underbanked or underserved customers that don't have access to a bank account because they don't have the capacity, they are too young, they are whatever the reasons are. If you're a teenager or if you're a security seeker, you should have a way to buy online the way you'd like. So we have a solution called PaySafe Card and PaySafe Cash. Here is how it works. So you buy online and check out in cash. So let's say I'm going to pay my auto loan on online with cash. I will go on to my auto loan account, for example, and I have to buy or to pay for 400 this month. And at the point of checkout, rather than using a credit card because I don't have one or I'm already maxed out, whatever the reasons are, I will click on Pay with Cash. And the website is displaying a barcode, and I will simply go with my barcode to the nearest convenience store, post office, supermarket, gas station, anything that is around you, and simply pay in cash. That's it. Once the QR code or the barcode, depending on the country, is scanned at the cashier, the transactions is cleared. And I'm hearing from time to time, the future is around cashless society. Everything is managed through an electronic payment method. And I tend to say, it looks amazing, but there is always going to be a future for cash. It's very, very hard for a country or even a city to run out of cash, if I may say so. And you want to be inclusive to everyone. If I'm a consumer and I want to pay with cash because my grandmother just gave me 100 for my birthday. I'm a waiter and I have some tips. I just have cash, right? And some of it is legit, so that's good. So let's make people pay with whatever they want, and that's how you are more inclusive and engaging with a broader audience. If you think about it, Philadelphia and New York or New Jersey even all had laws and new conditions to fight cashless stores and to make sure that you can pay with anything you have in your wallet.
No, absolutely. I think inclusion should be a primary focus for any retailer, right? You want to make sure you get every potential customer out there in the market.
Exactly. You don't want to be frustrating. Imagine I go to a store and I see a sign, sorry, no cash. I would feel humiliated because that's the way I wanted to pay. You don't want that with your customers, huh?
Exactly. Absolutely. Absolutely.
And same goes online, obviously.
Yeah, no, I think that's going to be an amazing tool. And I like the fact, you mentioned younger people, right? It's also an opportunity for them to learn how to finance themselves, right? And hey, they get that money on the weekends because they did the chores or they're in the university or whatever the case might be, then it allows them to better prepare into the future, So it's also almost like an educational tool in a way.
It's not only an education tool for the younger generation, it's also very interesting protective measures for the parents. If you have a teenager at home spending on online games, you don't want to give them your MasterCard or your to equip them with a reloadable prepaid card or something, and cash is accessible to all these online games. That way I make sure that my kids are spending 10 or 15 or $20, euros, pounds, wherever you are. And that's it. You don't have bad surprises at the end of the month.
Thank you so much for your input, Jeremy. It's been amazing. And I think our listeners have learned so much about what PaySafe does and of course the input and the expertise that you have. And I would like to leave this conversation with one piece of advice that you would have for all of our listeners. As you know, most of our listeners are retailers in various different roles and positions all over the industry. But what would be the one piece of advice that you would say for them to focus on in the next year?
Okay. Well, it's always difficult, right, to give any piece of advice. But for us at PaySafe, for me personally, I'm always looking at things in the shoes of a consumer. So ultimately, customers are the one driving innovation and adoption of any technology, any payment method, or any experiences. It only comes when there is something for them, for the consumers. So am I going to save money? Am I going to save time? Am I going to save energy? Or am I being safer in this pandemic world? It has to address one of these specific needs. Maybe I will get less friction in my interaction with the retailer, and that's a good way for me to go this route. It has to speak to these needs, otherwise there is no adoption, it won't fly. So payments are changing. If I go back to my payments hat, payments are really changing to keep consumers safe. We discussed on fraud, we discussed on contactless, frictionless payments. That's great. But it's not only now from a financial security point of view that payments are changing, it's also from a personal health standpoint. So that's also interesting how payments companies can help retailers to maintain their operations and streamline a couple of processes towards less friction and time saving, I guess, for the consumers.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much, Jeremy, for your time. Thank you, everybody, for listening to the Retail Corner podcast. We will see you guys on our next episode, and you guys have a beautiful day. If you wish to have a conversation with us, then email us at retailcorner@proxima360.com or visit our website at theretailcorner.proxima360.com. Thank you so much for tuning in. Stay safe and see you next time.